Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I received a package from a very magical company. Yeah, Midway USA. We're going to be jumping into loading a new caliber today. This is a little different for me because I'm loading for a caliber that I don't own a gun in. Well, I don't own it yet. I've actually purchased it and it's being shipped here right now. It should be here in 2 days. But that new caliber is, as you can probably tell by the title of the video, 6.5 Creedmoor. I've got this brand new set of Hornady dies. Brand new Starline brass. I got 100 pieces of it. Yeah, right there. With large primer pockets. And we're ready to go. I'm going to start by running this through a sizing die. Well, this sizing die. When I first got these dies, I saw right down here, use shell holder number 1. I had a little bit of a pause because I don't have a Hornady shell holder for 6.5 Creedmoor. And then I got to thinking, and I thought, you know what? I bet Hornady uses the same shell holder for 308 and 6.5 Creedmoor since they have basically the same rim. I have an RCBS shell holder. I honestly don't remember what number this shell holder is, but a quick test fit reveals that indeed that is the right one. So, great. Oh, here's the RCBS 3 shell holder, and it fits the 6.5 Creedmoor brass perfectly. So that's the one we're going to be using. Because this brass is brand new and it's not going to need much sizing, what I'm going to do is take a very light coat of Imperial sizing die wax, because it's not going to need much at all, and then run this through the sizing die just to make sure everything is pretty uniform. Because this is a new caliber and I haven't done this in a while, we're going to do a start to finish reloading video. The loads we're going to be shooting today are going to be a random load kind of in the middle of a charge weight range from the Hornady manual. These are loads that I'm going to be using to break in the gun and get some initial idea of the kind of accuracy we can expect out of it. I currently have 5 different bullets that we can test in the 6.5 Creedmoor, and they are all on the lighter end of things because these are bullets that I bought for use in 6.5 Grendel. The 2 heaviest ones I have here are the 130 grain Sierra Game Changer and the 129 grain Hornady Interlock that I believe I got free with a set of reloading dies. Not sure which one that was. Then I've got 123 grain AMAXs and ELDMs. So the first thing we're going to do, because it's probably the cheapest bullet we have, is load for the 129 grain interlock. It is a flat base bullet with a soft point. And I haven't even opened this package yet because I haven't loaded any in the Grendel. Yeah, that bullet right there. Still a pretty long bullet. But it's not one that I ever had any desire to load in the Grendel. So we're going to load it for kind of some initial loads here in the 6.5 Creedmoor. The last bullet I have here that might possibly work in the Creedmoor is the 120 grain Spear Gold Dot. Now, I have not been able to find any reloading data in 6.5 Creedmoor for this bullet, only in 6.5 Grendel. So I'm not sure if it's even viable. I'll have to do some research to make sure it doesn't fly apart at higher velocities or anything like that. But Spear does make a 140 grain Gold Dot that they do give 6.5 Creedmoor data for. So that might be what we have to do in order to test this bullet. Alright, so since we have that intro out of the way, I'm going to clear everything to the side for a second, and we're going to open up our package of dies. Hornady is continuing their Get Loaded promotion, so I can send these in for free bullets. And probably what I'm going to do, if I don't end up liking the accuracy of these 129 grain interlocks out of the 6.5 Creedmoor, what I'll probably do is get some more of those 55 grain 223 soft points. All right, and let's get this split open here. All right, and as always, the Hornady dies come real nicely packaged there. It's got a spot for the shell holder in the box, which I like. And then it's got, looks like a wrench and replacement decapping pins. It's got 2 of them. Let me see if, yeah, the sizing die has one on there already, and it's got a couple extra of those, so that's nice. Sizing die is the first we're going to be setting up. Right away, I notice that our seating die comes with 2 separate seating stems. So I'm going to back off this adjustment wheel and we're going to take a look at those. Let's see what we got here. This seating stem is not marked. And this seating stem has a part number on it. So we'll test both of those and see which one fits better. But it did come with 2, and that's something different. We'll see if they end up being different or not. Okay, I'll set that seating die aside for now, and we'll get over to the press. Oh, I do have 2 lock and load bushings left. I've found it's cheaper to buy the entire lock and load conversion kit that includes the press bushing for converting regular presses into lock and load. And it seems to usually be cheaper to buy this whole thing that comes with 3 lock and load bushings than to just buy a package with 3 lock and load bushings, which is strange, but oh well. So I bought this even though I don't really need this yet, but it might be handy in the future. So I'll pull one of these out and we'll get over to our press. Alright, you all have seen me set up a sizing die before, so this is going to be nothing new, but for those that may be new to the channel and haven't seen some of the old videos, we'll do this. So I'm going to start by putting my shell holder into the press and locking it in place. Then I'll take my lock and load bushing and pop it down into the top. I'm going to say out loud again my wish, and maybe Hornady will come out with this in their presses in the future, for a way to lock this die into position. So, that minor gripe out of the way, we'll get this in. Oh, I'm remembering that new dies usually need to be cleaned out because they've got oils from the factory on them. So I'm going to take this outside real quick here and spray it off with some brake cleaner, get all the parts clean. Okay, I have sprayed these out with carb cleaner and given them a few minutes to dry, so it's time to put them back together. The first thing to do is to, well, we'll get this part set first. I'm going to raise the ram, back out the locking ring, and then screw this down until it just touches the ram, and I've got just the slightest bit of cam over. That's perfect right there. I'm just going to lock that down. I don't think we should have any problem with that setting at all. Just the tiniest bit of cam over at the bottom. Not much at all. Now that I have that setting, I'm going to come over here to my locking hex my hex head screw here and torque it down. Just a little bit. Enough so that I can pop the die in and out of the press with the bushing, and it goes back to the same spot every time. Okay, the next part to do is going to be to put the decapping pin and the expander ball back in. And I want to place these so that the decapping pin is sticking out about that much. Let me see how well you can see that. There we go. About 3/16 of an inch, I think, is usually what's recommended. So I'm going to put it in about that far and then hold this part from spinning while I spin in the locking ring. And actually this might be easier to do, put back in the press. Okay, now it's sticking out way too far. It must have gone down a little bit further, so I'm just going to back this out a little bit until I have about the right amount sticking out the bottom. And you can just barely see it on the camera. See it sticking out the bottom there. Now I'll lock this down. Usually, no, it's not a 7/16. Let me see what it is here. 1/2 inch? Yeah, it's a 1/2 inch. Just going to give that just a little bit of a snug so that the shell, when it goes up on, the mouth of the case doesn't push the whole thing with the expander ball back up and out. Okay, so it's time to lube one of these cases up and run it through. I'm going to grab my Imperial sizing die wax and give just a little bit of lube here. Actually, since it's the first one going through and I cleaned all the oils out with carb cleaner, I'm going to give it a little more liberal application of the sizing die wax, and especially get it into the mouth of the case. All right, let's run this up through. So getting over that expander ball is the first little bit, and then up and in. And my sizing die is just barely touching the shell holder right here. Actually, it might be off of it by just a few thousandths. I can just barely see light through, and I think that's going to be just fine. I'll pull it back out, and that case is ready to go. I'll wipe it off here and move on to the next one. Just a light coat on this one. That didn't take, it barely took any effort to get it up in there and do this little bit of sizing. Just want to make sure they're all uniform after shipping, and that's going to be good right there. So I'm going to go ahead and run through all these. The next part that we'll do after I go through and get these sized, I'm going to run a light chamfer on the case mouth. Just like that. Just to make sure our bullets slide in easy, because there is just a little bit of, I don't want to call it a lip, but the surface on here is not perfectly even from the factory, so I'm going to run that through. Actually, you know what I should probably do before I chamfer and deburr is double check the overall length and make sure I don't need to trim these before we get started. Alright, I'm just checking my Hornady manual, and Hornady says the max case length is 1.920 and the case trim length is 10 thousandths shorter than that at 1.910. So let me check a couple of these cases and see where we end up. Again, this is brand new Starline brass, and the first number I'm getting is 1.907, so we're actually a little shorter than trim length there. 1.9095. 1.908. Okay, so it looks like we're going to be below trim length. If I do find any that are over trim length, I'll probably run the whole batch through and size them down to like 1.908 or something close to there. Yeah, 1.909. I actually don't know if I prefer them to be at or shorter than trim length from the factory, or if I would rather that they gave me a little room to cut them all down and make them consistent, but it is what it is. The rest of this sizing and deburring process is going to be extremely boring, so I'm going to come back when it's time to move on to the next step. So you can probably see it pretty well on the camera here, but after I've gone through and sized and deburred all of these, we're left with some gunk in the inside edges from brass shavings and from the lube that I put on. And I ended up just putting lube pretty much on the neck and shoulder when I was running them through, and on the inside of the neck. But that did collect the brass shavings. So what I'm going to do is dump these into the dry tumbler with some very clean, fresh corncob media, and we're going to give them just a quick tumble, maybe a half an hour to an hour, to get that lube off and to knock those brass shavings loose, and then we'll be ready to prime these up and load them. As often happens in these videos, I have to come back on a different day than I've started, so you can tell that my sleeves are different, and my voice is a lot more nasally because I am down with a cold. Anyway, I have got the RCBS primer plate on here. Hornady makes it, but it's for the RCBS primers, and it's in their nice, lovely green color. And that corresponds with the RCBS shell holder. The opening in the bottom is different than on the Hornady shell holders, so it takes just a little bit different plate, but that's okay. The main reason that I went with the large rifle primer Starline brass is that large rifle primers work much better with this hand priming tool. The small ones flip over in the tray and give me quite a bit of difficulty. So I went with the large rifle primer kind of for that reason. I might regret it later if we don't get the accuracy we're looking for, but it is what it is for now. So I'm going to be using Winchester WLR primers on this test. It's what I have the most of in large rifle primers. So I'm going to start out, I've got 20 left on this tray. I'll just flip those over into there, and then put my cap on. Alright, and let's get to priming some brass here. Oh yeah, nice tight primer pockets and seats just below flush. That is exactly what I'm wanting. Let's do one more. Yeah, that is perfect. Alright, that's exactly what I want. So, I'm going to prime up the rest of these. And we'll come back when it's time to measure some powder. Alright, on to powder measuring. So I've got all of our brass primed up. And the powder for today is going to be Varget. Now you can see I have two cans here. That's because I have just a little bit left in this can. I'm going to try to use it up today and then move on to the next pound if we have to. But anyway, let's get this poured out in our dish. The charge for today is 37.2 grains, which is a full grain below Hornady's listed max load. And get our trickler filled up. There we go, and then dump the rest in our dish. Vargot always throws me off just a little bit, looking at it at first, because you can see it's kind of got a yellowish color to it. But that is normal for this powder and nothing to worry about. Now, let me see what powder measure is going to fit. I'm going to guess on the 2.2 cc. We'll just see where that gets us. 37 grains is what we're going for. Oh, that through 31.5 grains. Let's go up to our 2.5. $35.8 grains, so that's going to get us fairly close. And then I'll just trickle up the last grain. Even though this is just a starting charge and a barrel break-in charge, I want to have them trickled out so that it's as accurate as it can be. All right, there's our first charge of 37 grains. Going into a case. Now when I put this back on the scale, I'm making sure it zeroes out. Let me get you a little closer view into that. Alright, so our scale is zeroed out here. Get a little bit of a heaping scoop to get us a little closer to our target. 36.8 and up to 37.2. Oh, I went quite a bit over there, especially after I bumped it. So I'll just take a little bit out at a time until I'm there. Okay, and that's making me remember that I think I charged my first case to 37 grains. So I'm going to dump it back in here and trickle it up just a bit because 37.2 is our target. Yep, 37 grains. And these Vargot kernels are not huge, but they're fairly big, so just a couple of kernels makes a difference. One thing I'm noticing right away on this new Starline brass is it's got a little bit of a lip on the outside, and I tried to smooth that out as much as I could with my deburring tool, but it just doesn't have a steep enough angle to get at it. And what I'm running into is when I put my powder funnel on there and then try to lift it back up, it sticks on there pretty good. Now, I just went over to, took a piece of unpowdered brass and went over to my Frankfurt Arsenal Trim and Prep Center and ran it through the deburring tool again. And it's still got a little bit of it, but not as much, and I've gotten rid of most of that burr. So I think what I'm going to do, even though I really don't want to take off that much material, is I'm going to go back through the deburring tool and try again and see if I can get most of that removed. So let's dump, we just have one case powdered up here. Let's dump it back in and go over there and see if we can get that burr removed on this brass. Alright, I'm over here at the tool and I'm going to be using this right here. It's got a little bit steeper angle to it than my handheld tool that I used to trim in the first place. So I'm going to flip this on and run my brass through that for just a second, and I think I've taken care of that little burr on the edge for the most part. So I'm going to run through all this brass and then we'll come back and try to powder the cases again. To accomplish that, I had to put a pretty good chamfer on the outside of the case here, and I think I got rid of most of that burr on the edge. You can see there's just a little bit left, but it's not nearly as bad as it was. Something I was not expecting on Starline brass. I don't remember seeing that at all on the Starline 308 brass, but hopefully we've got it taken care of, and maybe after the first firing it'll smooth out a little bit more. Okay, let's get back to powdering. Pretty simple process here because I'm only loading one charge of 37.2 grains. So I'm just going to trickle each one up and load the same charge in all 50 cases. I thought about just loading like 20, so enough for a box of ammo. But I always find when I get out to the range, I wish I had more than I did to work out kinks, do whatever. So I'm just going to go ahead and load up these 50. If I have to pull them for whatever reason, I'll pull them. Not a huge deal. And if it ends up being halfway accurate, I may just end up plinking with these rounds when I get done breaking in the barrel. So I'll do the same thing for each of the next 47 cases. And then we'll start getting the bullet seating die set up and seating some bullets. I've got my cases all charged with powder, and I've done a visual inspection to make sure that there is indeed powder in every case. Usually what I do at this point is set the bullets on top and in position so that the powder is covered just until we get to seating the bullet. But these are flat base bullets, and they don't really sit in there like a bow tail would. So we'll do them individually. Again, we are using the Hornady 129 grain 264 diameter interlock bullet today. Let's jump over to the press and get our seating die set up. One quick note, at the beginning of setting the seating die up, I had heard that the seating dies were the same between all 6.5 millimeter kits, and that Hornady did had a 30 cal seating die and a 6.5 seating die, 223, so on. But what I found right away, because I did order this full 6.5 Creedmoor set instead of just the sizing die, and I'm glad I did, because take a look at this. This is the 6.5 Creedmoor die, and let me get my 6.5 Grendel die here for you to compare, and it does have the bushing on it, but look at this. The 6.5 Creedmoor die is significantly longer. So it is different. I'm not sure how it's different. I'm not sure. Maybe the 6.5 Grendel die would work for seating these bullets, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Not the same die. So we'll put that one back and get the Creedmoor die set up in the press. Again, like our sizing die, I'll start by putting in the press bushing and locking it down. Then I need to grab our shell holder. And what we do here is actually put a case in. And this case does have powder in it, so I'm going to be careful not to spill that. I'm going to loosen my lock ring all the way up, raise the ram, just like that, set this down, and then I'm going to screw the die in until I meet the case mouth. Okay, there I've met the case mouth. Yep, and I've got this up here backed out almost all the way, but I've met the case mouth there. This die does have the capability to roll crimp, I believe, or maybe it's taper crimp, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Either way, we're not going to use it. So I'm going to back out on this die one full turn. Grab the whole die body here. Half turn, one turn, because I don't want any contact with the case mouth whatsoever. And then I'll take and lock down the lock ring. And that is all there is to that. There, I'll adjust the camera up so that you can see the entire die. Okay, so I've got this cedar stem backed all the way out. Now what I'll do is set a bullet on top, put it up in there, go all the way to the top of the stroke, and then take the seating stem down until I meet resistance. And it's right there. Okay, now I'll drop that down a couple of turns and just start seating the bullet. Okay, and you can see we are a mile long, so I'm just going to come down. I've got that cantilever to mark about where we're going to be, but I'm not going to go all the way to there. So let me come down another couple of turns. Okay, let me take a quick look and see what our overall length is supposed to be. And because I don't have the gun yet, and I'm just loading up some first test ammo, I don't have a distance to lands or anything, so I'm going to load to Hornady spec length on this ammo. And that will be a case overall length of 2.690. So let's see where we're at right now. Okay, 2.817. So I'll give it another crank. I'm guessing we're going to end up right at the cantilever there. I'm at 2.760. 2.742. I'm trying to come up on this kind of slow. .728. This would be where it'd be handy to have the micrometer seating adjustment on here. .701. I've got 10 thousandths to go, or 11 thousandths actually. Let's hope that wasn't too far. 2.692. Okay. Let's seat the next bullet and see how far off we are here. I am using my standard technique of seating halfway, rotating the case a quarter to a half turn, and then seating the rest of the way. 2.687. I don't have a comparator, otherwise we would be measuring a cartridge base to ogive for a more consistent number. All right. 2.690, so that one was right on target. I think we're at the setting that we're going to keep. That is a good looking loaded round. I'm liking that a lot. Let's do two more here. Do a nice round number at 5 on camera, just in case I have to make any adjustments. 2.690 or 2. Let me see here. Yeah, I thought I had like a 2.6895 or something like that, but we're really close. One more. .691. Close enough. We're going to go with that seating depth right there. Quick note on seating stems. The set of dies that I got did come with 2 seating stems. So there's the one that's in here and then one other in the case. They are different. I was testing that out with bullets. The one that's in the case fits pretty good on these bullets, just a little loose. The seating stem I have in the die right now is the one that came already inside the die. I took it apart, looked all over it, and you can see a difference between the 2 seating stems just looking down in them. So it's possible that this seating stem will be a little better when we get to the ELD bullets. I don't know. It's a decent fit for that one. Not bad at all. But like I said, the one that's in here was slightly better. So that's the one I went with. Okay, I've got my seating depth set. I've got my complete loaded rounds. The next time I come back to you, we will be out at the shooting range with the new gun, and I'll show you that gun, and we'll get it set up and get the barrel broken in. Alright, so before we get started here, I wanted to get sighted in with this Winchester 125 grain open tip match. This stuff right here. And I was able to pick up a box of 60 of these for just over $40, so I was glad for that. My wife has already shot 15-ish of these, checking her zero, getting a little practice with the gun. We've got it sighted in at 50 yards right now. I'm going to take a couple quick sighters at 100, and then we'll shoot a group and see how it does. Also have the chronograph set up so that I can get some velocity numbers on it, just so that we have something to go off of. This rotary magazine loads a little differently, and it's a little tricky to get used to. Alright, got a nice little group there, about 1 inch high. So I'm going to come down 2 minutes and we'll shoot a group. You won't be able to see the first target there because it's actually below where I have my target camera set. If you notice I'm talking a little differently, a little quieter today, it's because today I do not have the range to myself, which is fine, and the other shooter has graciously agreed to let me talk into my camera while I'm talking to you guys. I have 4 rounds there in the rotary magazine, and we'll load one into the chamber and shoot a 5-shot. That magazine clicks in a lot easier than my Savage Model 11. We're going to go for that center target on the top row. I wanted to get lots of practice in with this gun before I actually started a load workup, because I wanted to get used to this trigger and see if I need to actually do a little work on it before it's ready to shoot groups. And it's hard to tell through this 12 power scope, but it looks like that shot landed right on the black square, which is fine. We can adjust for the next group. This bolt was working a lot smoother than it did for the first 10 shots or so. Smoothed out a ton. And it is cleaned and oiled now. Alright, we'll try for our hand loads now. I'm going to come down another minute on the scope. Alright, my target camera is acting slightly crazy, so we may or may not get these shots on camera, but we will see. I have got 5 more rounds here. Between the last shots and these shots, I shot 20 rounds, just plinking. The barrel is now cooled back down completely to ambient temperature, and we're going to shoot another 5-shot group, see if we have anything different. Boy, I've just been shooting the 6.5 Grendel with the 2.5 pound trigger, and this trigger feels like it takes forever to go off. Pressure, 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 pressure. Finally, bang. It's nice and crisp, but it is heavy. All right, 4 of those shots gave us a nice little group. That's not too shabby at all. Let's go down to the bench and we'll talk a little bit more about this. All right, let's take a quick look at this target here. And there's nothing spectacular, but I wasn't really expecting anything. Again, we haven't done any sort of load workup yet. Here's the factory loads with the 125 grain Winchester open tip. 4 of those shots actually went into 0.8 inches, which is great. The 5th shot opened it up to 1.28, but still not bad at all, and definitely something to look forward to. Ignore this group over here. That was a quick group with the Grendel while I was messing around at the range. Here's our 2 groups with our hand loads, and of course they were going super slow, and we weren't near our where probably our velocity or our accuracy nodes would be. But both groups, we got 4 of the shots into about an inch, 0.95 on this one, the last one, and then 1.06 on the first one. Both of the groups around 1 3/4 inches for all 5 shots. But again, that was with our kind of throwaway 129 grain interlock bullet. So I'm really excited to see what we get when we start working with match bullets and with our 130 grain Sierra Game Changer, which is probably going to be the next bullet we work with here in 6.5 Creedmoor. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this video today, definitely come back for more. We're going to have a lot more with this Thompson Center Compass in 6.5 Creedmoor here in the near future, as well as lots of other stuff, lots of hunting coming up, and other stuff. So again, thanks for watching. Have a good one.